There's a specific kind of rage that only the erased understand, not sadness, not nostalgia. It's watching the city you loved celebrating without you, watching your enemies rewrite your story, knowing you were right, and it didn't matter. This rage doesn't fade, it calculates, waits in the dark, sharpening itself on memory. Because when they erase you, man, you get stuck in the last version of yourself they saw, the defeated one, the wrong one, and every day that passes, that image hardens, becomes fact, becomes history, until you're not even a person anymore, just a name people use to mean failure. But sometimes, that rage builds something eternal. In 1302, a guy got banned from his own city, Florence, the centre of the world. He never came back, but what he wrote in exile became the most famous poem ever created. And it wasn't just a poem, it was revenge. The thing is, this revenge doesn't explode, it accumulates, line by line, name by name, until the weapon isn't a sword, it's a sentence, and the sentence lasts forever. Dante wasn't a poet first, he was a politician. Florence in the 1290s was a war zone, not between nations, between families, two factions tearing the city apart, the blacks, the whites. This wasn't ideology, this was blood. Old grudges wrapped in new language, personal vendettas disguised as civic duty, the kind of conflict where everyone believes they're saving the Republic, and everyone's probably making it worse. Dante chose a side, the whites. He believed in order, independence from the Pope, a Florence ruled by Florentines, not puppets, not foreign powers, a city that belonged to itself. He became a prior, one of the city's leaders. He had power, he had influence. He made decisions that affected thousands. He thought he was building something, and then he lost, not in debate, not in votes, in violence. The blacks didn't win an argument, they won the streets, and once they had control, they did what victors always do. They erased the losers. When the blacks took control, they didn't just remove him, they accused him of corruption, fraud, embezzlement, all lies, but lies with official seals, lies in legal documents, the kind of lies that become truth because no one can challenge them. The sentence, exile. If he ever returned to Florence, he would be burned alive. Dante was 37 years old. He had a wife, children, a home, books, friends, a future, gone, in one document, one signature. Here's the part people forget. Dante begged to come back. The proud political philosopher, the man who wrote about dignity and virtue. He wrote letters, pleaded for forgiveness, offered to humiliate himself publicly if they'd let him return. He said he'd walk through the streets in a penitent's robe. He'd bow his head. He'd admit to crimes he didn't commit. Just let me come home. They said no, not because they hated him, because forgetting him was easier. Exile isn't about punishment. It's about permission. Permission to pretend you were never important. So the man who wanted mercy wrote a book with none. Dante spent the next 20 years wandering Italy, dependent on nobles, sleeping in borrowed rooms, writing by candlelight, eating at tables where he wasn't quite a guest, wasn't quite a servant, somewhere in between. The brilliant exile, the entertaining refugee. People liked having him around, as long as he stayed grateful, as long as he stayed useful. This is what exile teaches you. Your value is always conditional, and slowly. He constructed the most detailed vision of hell ever imagined, not in rage, in precision. The Divine Comedy wasn't theology, it was a courtroom. Every circle of hell was designed for a specific type of sinner. Traitors frozen in ice, the greedy boiling in gold, the violent drowning in blood. And Dante personally has placed his enemies there, by name. Popes, politicians, former friends. He turned hell into a celebrity roast. Except it lasted forever. This wasn't metaphor. Dante believed he was documenting reality. He wasn't imagining hell. He was reporting from it. And the people he put there, they were already burning. He was just letting everyone know. Here's where it gets strange. Dante didn't write in Latin. Latin was the language of the church, of scholars, of power. The language that separated the educated from the common. The language that kept knowledge locked behind walls. He wrote in Italian, Florentine Italian, the language people actually spoke, the language of markets and mothers, of arguments and songs. This wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was a declaration. You exiled me from Florence. But I am going to define what Florence sounds like. It was an act of linguistic imperialism from a man with no empire, and it worked. The Divine Comedy became so popular, so widely read, that the Italian Dante wrote became the standard. Modern Italian is built on his syntax, his vocabulary, his rhythm, Tuscan shepherds, Roman merchants, Venetian sailors. They all started sounding like Dante, because his language was the one people wanted to read. The man banned from his city, so became the father of its language. This is power, not the power to control today, the power to control how people speak tomorrow, and if you control how they speak, you control how they think. Dante didn't just write poetry, he rewired a culture's brain. From exile, we live in the age of exile, not legal exile, social exile, cancellation, deplatforming, public shaming. The modern banishment doesn't burn you at the stake, it just makes you invisible, removes you from the feed, deletes your verification, turns your name into a warning. And just like Dante, the exiled don't disappear. They write Substack essays, threads, manifestos. They build alternate platforms, alternate audiences, alternate realities, because exile creates a choice: fade into obscurity or become unforgettable. Dante didn't have Twitter, but he had something better, a poem people couldn't stop reading. He understood what every exile learns. You can't control the present, but you can colonize the future, and the future belongs to whoever writes the best story, not the truest. The best, the one people repeat, the one that sticks. Dante's story stuck, because it answered a question everyone has. What happens to bad people after they die? And Dante said, I'll show you, in detail, with names. The Divine Comedy did something almost impossible. It made literature political without being propaganda. Dante filled hell with real people, but he also filled it with ideas: justice, free will, the corruption of the church. He put 3 popes in hell while they were still alive. Imagine that, writing that the living pope is damned, not in private, not in whispers, in the most popular poem in Europe. This wasn't safe, this was dangerous, the kind of thing that gets you killed. But Dante had nothing left to lose, and that made him untouchable. Not physically, he could still be murdered, but intellectually, morally. You can't shame a man who's already been exiled. You can't threaten a man who's already lost everything. The exiled artist is the most dangerous kind. Because shame doesn't work anymore, threat doesn't work. You already took everything, so now he can tell the truth. And the truth Dante told was simple. The people in charge are going to hell, and I know exactly which circle. This is why power fears exile, not because the exiled are violent, but because they're free. Free from the social contract, free from the need to belong, and that freedom is terrifying, because it produces clarity, the kind of clarity that burns. But here's the tension Dante never resolved. He spent his whole life longing for Florence. Every page of the comedy is soaked in it. The streets, the river, the towers. He describes Florence the way you describe a lost love, with detail, with ache. He remembers the exact colour of the stone, the sound of the bells at dawn, the smell of bread from a specific bakery on a specific corner. This isn't casual memory, this is obsession. The exile's disease, remembering better than anyone who stayed. Because the people who stayed got to move on. Their Florence changed, evolved, disappointed them in small, ordinary ways. But Dante's Florence stayed perfect. Frozen in 1302, the city as it was the last time he saw it. Forever young, forever his. And yet, he also condemned it. He put Florentines in hell. He mocked their politics. He predicted their destruction. He wrote that Florence would tear itself apart, that its greed would consume it, that future generations would curse its name. Dante loved Florence, and he wanted it to burn. Both. At the same time, this is the contradiction of exile. You hate the place that rejected you, but you die to go back. You curse it, but you defend it against outsiders. You want it to fail, but only so they'll realize they were wrong about you. That's exile. You can't go home, but you can't let go. So you turn it into art, and the art becomes the home, the only one you can control. Dante died in 1321, still in exile. He never saw Florence again. But Florence saw him, not immediately. For decades, the city that banned him ignored him. His poem was popular everywhere else, but in Florence, complicated. Because reading Dante meant confronting what they'd done. It meant seeing their names in hell. It meant admitting the exile was greater than the city. And that's unbearable. Centuries later, they tried to bring his body back. Ravenna, the city where he died, refused. You exiled him alive. You don't get him dead. This is justice, not legal justice, poetic justice, the kind Dante would have appreciated. Today, there's an empty tomb in Florence, waiting for bones that will never come. A monument to absence, to the man they erased, who became impossible to erase. Meanwhile, every Italian child reads Dante in school. His face is on the $2 coin. His words are the backbone of the language. Museums in Florence sell Dante merchandise. Dante tours. Dante quotes on magnets. The city profits from the man it destroyed. He lost the war, but he won the civilization. This is the long game. The game exiles play when they can't win today. They win tomorrow. They win in textbooks. They win in memory. And memory is longer than power. We forget how much of our world was built by the exiled. Marx wrote in London. Freud fled to England. Solzhenitsyn was deported. Joyce left Ireland and never looked back. Nabokov lost everything twice. These weren't accidents. Exile creates a specific kind of mind, one that sees systems from outside, one that questions what everyone else accepts. Because when you're exiled, you lose the luxury of assumptions. You can't assume you belong. You can't assume you're safe. You can't assume the rules apply to you. So you see the rules clearly, as choices, not natural laws, and that makes you dangerous. Exile doesn't kill ideas, it sharpens them, because when you lose your place, you have to justify your existence. You can't just be. You have to matter. Dante couldn't be a Florentine politician anymore, so he became something bigger, a moral architect, a judge of souls, the man who gave hell a map. And we're still using it. Not literally. Most people don't believe in Dante's hell, but we believe in the structure. We believe in levels of wrong. We believe some people deserve worse than others. We believe in eternal consequences. Dante didn't invent hell, but he organized it, made it systematic, made it make sense. And that version, his version, is the one that stuck. Even people who've never read Dante know his hell. 9 circles, descending order, Satan at the center, that's all him. The exile who couldn't control his own fate, became the man who organized everyone else's. Dante Alighieri was never allowed home, but he made sure Florence would never forget him. The poem was his revenge, the language was his immortality, and the message? Simple. You can exile the man. You cannot exile what he builds in the dark, because darkness is where you see clearest, when there's no light to comfort you, no crowd to validate you, just you and the work. Better than good. He was necessary. And necessity outlasts politics, outlasts grudges, outlasts cities. Florence exiled Dante, but Dante became Florence, the version that lasts, the version that matters, and that's the final revenge. Not that they remember you, but that they can't escape you. Every time they speak their own language, they speak yours.